Hey everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Creatio's Low-Code Marathon. I'm Eric Hale, Head of Sales Enablement, and I'll be your host throughout this event. I really appreciate everybody joining, and we have a great day ahead of us in terms of presenters. As we move into day 2 of the Low-Code Marathon, we are embracing the everyone a developer concept. And this is really going to be focused on how to create a low-code organization throughout any enterprise. Just to give you a little background on the agenda today, we have a very good panel of speakers coming in to discuss several different topics. We have our democratized development. So we have John Bratansevich, Senior Analyst at Forrester. And we also have A to Z Guide to Embracing a Low-Code, No-Code Approach in Your Company. This will be delivered by our product evangelist, Alex Petronenko. And we'll also have another great presentation from Mike Uden, who is our technology evangelist. And he'll be talking about workflow automation within your organization and being able to rapidly develop utilizing low-code technologies. And finally, we have a great session of a fireside chat where I will be joined by some of my esteemed colleagues from our partner organization, and we'll be talking about driving the future of work through low-code and citizen development. So promises to be a very exciting day here at the Low-Code Marathon. But before we jump into it, we really wanted to recognize the winners of our quiz from yesterday's session. So if we remember correctly, we had a quiz that basically asked if we had understood when the term low code was first coined. And we had several correct answers come through in the chat. So we ended up having to randomly select 3 of those winners. And as you can see on the screen, we have 3 winners: Barbara Willis, Paul Murray, and Stan Tracy. So hopefully you've joined for day 2, and you'll be collecting a fabulous prize. We do have your email available, and we'll be sending that directly out to you. Will be a nice gift card, Netflix or the equivalent, something for a subscription. So we appreciate you taking part in our quiz, and that's a note to the rest of you online that we'll have a quiz at the end of today as well. So we'll be providing additional prizes on tomorrow's call. So again, more incentive for you to stay with us through the Low-Code Marathon. All right, and we'll go ahead and jump into the presentation portion of our Low-Code Marathon. Just a quick reminder that as we have our presenters speaking, please submit your questions via chat, and we'll do our best to filter those to our panelists. We'll also have a team managing the chat as well to answer any questions. So let's go ahead and get started. Actions between the audience members. And again, I think that we could extend these sessions for hours and hours upon end, and I think we'd have some great involvement. So it seems very very interesting.
Yeah, and actually also quite a lot of great feedback from the the session that John was just giving from Forrester.
Yeah, absolutely. John brings tremendous industry experience. Like I said, 20 plus years working with low-code platforms and organizations of various sizes and industries as well. And it was very interesting to hear his take on how we're going to move to this low-code approach. Just to remain within an organization's growth strategy. So very interesting presentation, interesting gentleman.
Yeah, absolutely. And just so that while we're waiting for the content to be shared on the screen, so we might have just a slight technical issue there. Right, just a quick introduction into the session that we're going to be running today. and Eric, what we really want to talk about is, how do we, what is behind the low-code approach, right? The reasons to embrace it, the technologies that is there to support it, and of course, our vision as a vendor of where the low-code technology and no-code technology should be going into. So really just waiting for the content to be shared here. Just give us a second.
It's always interesting when you get these technical difficulties, people's ability to kind of vamp and go on with the conversation here. So yeah, interesting. Here we go. Looks like something's happening. We apologize for the technical delay, folks, but I assure you that Alex's presentation is going to be riveting, so it'll be well worth the wait.
Okay, well, probably let's just continue with how we're rolling right now, right? I'm just going to be asking to signal over and to carry over.
I'll tell you what. I think I can request control, and I'll drive the slides for you. Would that work?
Yeah.
All right, so I'll just go to your next slide here. How's that?
Sure. Okay, perfect. So, the Murphy Law, if something can go wrong, it will go wrong at the worst time possible. But of course, as we've probably mentioned a couple of times already during the LowCode Marathon, recently we have concluded and made a research on the state of LowCode, right, which was a global survey carrying over around, more than 1,000 decision makers in more than 10 industries across almost 100 different countries, right? And this research and this report has actually uncovered a lot of interesting content, a lot of interesting details around how different organizations approach the low-code enablement and low-code implementation of technologies, really how and who are the people that are actually focusing on this approach, right? And a couple of findings that we can actually see and look at on the next slides really talk about the current state of low-code, right? And the top reasons for the implementation of low-code technologies in any organization, as has been found out, is really talking about the faster implementation of system automation and data automation, right? Of course, the improvements around the acceleration of time to market and time to value for the end users, for the business users, and I would say even business requesters, whether this is the end customer of our clients and partners, right, whether those are the internal users of the system. But also one of the reasons for implementation of low-code technology is actually full operational efficiency, right? So already organizations now understand the value that low-code can bring to their organizations, right? Their goals and visions of implementation of these technologies. But also what is an interesting finding, and again, just moving to the next slide, I'm trying to cue in Eric as smoothly as possible, but see, it's a little tricky here. But yeah, one of the findings that the state of low-code is actually talking to is also the fact that right now, if we're looking on average out of 3 citizen developers, right, only two are going to be IT related and 1 is going to be a business user. Right, so citizen development, even though it is kind of targeted towards non-IT users and those that are not related to IT, currently are facing a little bit different approach. And this is absolutely expected, right? This is absolutely normal because low-code started evolving to the same kind of pace and same position where it is right now, not so long ago, right? So this is an emerging technology. And we also have a vision around how this is going to be, right, based again on some of our findings. But the point here is that also only 6% of all of the low-code development is done through business users, right? So the coverage of the non-IT professionals within the low-code environment and low-code industry is quite small, right? And of course, we as a vendor believe that this should be changed, right? We're as well looking to extend the layer and extend the coverage of these use cases, right? And increase this percentage of low-code development to more than just 6 or 10, right? To actually give more power to business users, but not compromising on the breadth and depth of functionality that they could be using. And at this point, let's probably have a quick poll, as we've seen right on the sneak peek.
Yeah,
right. And really check with our audience, with our participants, what do they believe what would be the key benefit, right, for an organization embracing and adopting low code? Is that going to be the reduced app development, the accelerated time to market, time to value? Those very often come together, right? The reduced security risks, and of course, minimizing backlog for the IT departments and or better customer experience, right? And Eric, if you've got the access to the poll, right? Let's really give it 10 seconds to roll into.
Yeah, we definitely can. I love the choices that we have here, Alex, like in terms of what the key benefits are. Each are very important, but I think when I talk to customers, what I see the most is accelerated time to market. With competition growing in every industry, we have to stay ahead of our competitors. We have to be able to launch things in a quick and easy manner. And I think accelerated time to market is what I'm seeing as the key benefit. So I'm interested to see how we how we fare. And I've actually got the results of the poll, and we got reduced app development costs coming in at 25%, very important. Accelerated time to market at 46.4%. So I think that other people are seeing it from my perspective as well, right? Got to stay ahead of the competition. Reduced security risks came in at 7.1%, and better business IT cooperation at 21.4%. So a good mix across the board in terms of the results.
Yeah, and quite interesting distribution, right? As always, it's interesting to see how our customers, the participants and audience reacts to these questions, right? But let's just carry on because we are a little bit on time here, right? And just a few more things, and a couple of more findings that were as well kind of uncovered with the state of low code. And again, we encourage everybody to go through that report, right? You can get access on our website. And overall, the benefits of using low code, again, kind of ran through this report, is also what is the kind of estimated improvement in the accelerated time to market, right? And most of the respondents said that at least between 20 to 60% faster development and design of the application is supported and provided by the embrace of low code, which is a phenomenal number, right? And even the 6% that have stated that it's been accelerated by more than 100%, right, is also quite fascinating, right? And we believe that, but because this report that we're going to be running is going to be actually an annual event, it will be very interesting to compare these numbers year to year and see where do the ships go, right? How do we actually see the market changing? And just to finalize with a few more things, right? The overall approach in the low code is really to simplify the development of customer-facing applications, right? And as well to support middle and back office processes. So we believe that a world where the business users are using a single application for all of their needs, for all of their processes that they're involved in, right? Or that the company is looking to provide to the users is possible by using low-code technology. So it's really a one-stop solution, right? And we believe that this is somewhat that we're going to be able to achieve not in a decade, definitely not in a couple of years, right? But actually be able to support organizations in a very short time. And again, if we talk about the whole vision behind the low code and no code, right? Currently, if we're looking at the distribution between low code and no code numbers, right? We'll actually see on the next slide, for example, that right now we've got around a 50-50% distribution, right? Where still low code technologies are being used by IT as their target users, right? So business analysts, system administrators, perhaps even professional developers, right, that are valuing the power behind drag and drop and kind of WYSIWYG self-configuration, whilst no code is again 50% distributed towards target users of knowledge workers, right? So those that have a good insight into the business, good insight into the application itself, but not necessarily have the required IT backgrounds. And of course, right, we believe that over time these numbers will be changing. So right now, let's probably talk about how do we support, and of course the foundational basis for any SaaS application, right? So moving to the next slide, let's probably talk about how do we support the whole overall process of embracing the low-code technologies, right, in the application. Basically, what we want to talk about is, first of all, Creatio is definitely, already covering all of the required steps and all of the required milestones in implementation and creation of business applications, right? First of all, we're using our process design tool, which is part of our offering, right, to create an online repository of all of the business processes, whether those are going to be on high-level operational processes, right, whether those are going to be the collaboration between multiple departments, or even drilling down into specific processes, as in request management, right, as recruitment, or any other focused highly on end user operations. And of course, by creating this library, we are then enabling our customers to easily implement those processes and maintain visibility and clarity into how the process is actually structured, right, how it is changing. Let's continue, and of course from there, right, we're talking about the design tools of the application. Well, of course, we provide an incredible, page designer for user interfaces, for data model in a simple WYSIWYG style of configuration and outline of the overall interfaces, right? Of course, we continue with other tools such as, and let's carry on to overall automation frameworks, right? So the ways that we can build structured towards more unstructured processes, right? Providing a framework of actions to the end user and how to operate within those processes. And of course, right, to as well provide the most powerful BPM process management engine on the market, right? Where again, through visual diagrams that we can see on the next slide, we can actually, provide an incredible level of data and user automation, right? So to actually be able to connect, and not to just automate data manipulation, right, and user operations, but as well connect connect applications seamlessly within simple drag and drop definition of the use cases for data exchange. And of course, we can as well talk about the overall configuration of the analytics and the reporting side of things, right? So how do we actually approach the visibility of the end users into the KPIs and the progress of the daily routine? This is as well, actually complemented and supported with additional functionality around, the definition of the overall access to the data, right? And we can, on the next slide, we can as well kind of talk about the mobile application outline, right? Because you can't go without mobile nowadays, and bring your own device, and the approach through native mobile application, progressive web applications, and overall adaptive approach in the user interface support. And of course, moving forward, right? So overall, how do we manage the access to the data, access to the application, access to the processes, right? So creating not just a centralized business application for all of the departments, all of the users, but as well kind of maintaining and controlling the access to them within a single installation. So moving forward, right, in addition to having a very strong offering on the products and the tools that are there already to deliver, right, the low codes to our customers and partners, there's also a very strong vision towards where the platform will be moving forward, right? And we're going to be talking about quite briefly on the key, I would say, areas of the platform evolution, right? Talking about the design tools on the application lifecycle management and integrations. And again, we're just going to quickly breeze through these. Eric, you can keep your own pace, right? We're just going to be talking about this. But overall, after the process of adopting Angular, right, in Creatio as a main front-end user framework, what we've seen is a great feedback from our partners and customers, right? And this really confirmed our decision and our strategy of moving to Angular. And we're now in full speed of moving all of the user interface to this framework, where first of all, we're of course starting with the design tools. And in this case, the design tools of Creatio are going to be provided in a consistent way, right, through the even beginning with the newest release of 7.18 that happened just a couple of weeks ago. And then, Eric, if we can just move forward, right? This is going to be the way that all of the interfaces, including home pages, dashboards, record UIs and sections are going to be designed with a simplistic, very powerful, yet very simple to access design area of the application. Moving forward, we can as well, talk about how these are going to be available on all of the form factors, right? How this will be providing us with an adaptive user interface available across all of the different devices that could be using it. This as well, moving forward, can as well be, providing a centralized area in the application design stage of maintaining and controlling all of the different elements that could be designed, right? So creating the page library of existing and new elements that can be created based on templates that we provide as best practices that have been configured and are available on our marketplace, right? Supported by our partners and our customers as well. And of course, one of the most important areas in any low-code application platform is the development of the application lifecycle management functionality, right? We're as well going to be continuously improving the overall ownership of our customers of their installations, right? So to be able to have a one-screen page layout and overview of all of the areas that they might have the access to from one single area, right? To have self-service capability of maintaining and controlling their environments, to as well, perform routine operations over their environments and actually monitor the usage of those applications that they're creating, right? And of course, this is something that we believe that it should be in a core essence and core access to our customers. But also what is very important is continuously delivering through our vision of creating integrations. And Eric, if we can just move to the next slide, right? Through integrations, create a world where all of the different applications can be connected together quite easily, right? And even though we already support all of the possible options for building integrations, the vision is there to provide this use case coverage based on low-code and no-code configuration, right? So to be able to create REST and SOAP web services with a few clicks, right, with system recognition of all of the parameters for the integrations, but also in the same way to deliver webhook integration for broadcasting and subscribing to messages. And I know that I have just a couple of minutes here left, so I would like to ask the audience to send their questions in chat. Our team will definitely come back to you in the chat, right, and need it as well afterwards in the email. But the vision there for the system development is as well to create a composable platform, right? And when we talk about the composability of the platform, we really think about Lego blocks of functionality that could be mixed and matched across anything that we provide as a vendor, right, as our templated features and functions, whether this is something that our partners provide as part of our marketplace program as well, right? Or even this is something that has been already developed on an instance of Creatio and that can be exported, shared, and reused across all of the different applications, right? So this is really the vision behind building the composable platform. And in this case, we as well talk about, quickly browsing through a catalog of applications that could be reused and building your custom business application from any variety of features and functionality that is available. And just a few quick words about the product-like approach, right? Over years, we've been receiving incredible feedback from our customers around how great the application is, right? How easy it is to adapt to it and adopt it, right? And how users love it. And our vision here is to continue delivering the most friendly and performative, right, and easy to use application, where we believe that the application itself should be adopted not only by the end users, but as well by citizen developers, business analysts, non-IT professionals, right, in the perspective of them being able to jumpstart building their applications at a speed of light, right, to have the ability of building any business application without having any IT knowledge, with the help of simple to use tools for configuration by reusing all of the different components and ready-to-use templates, right? And then, of course, being able to maintain and easily take control and ownership of that environment and that business application. Just so that anytime that a departmental user, right, someone who's an end user sees a value in creating a business application for their team, they can use Creatio to build that application quickly without any effort, right, and without having to go through a couple of years of professional development training. And this is really the vision of how Creatio is going to be supporting the low-code strategy, right, and the embrace of low-code technology across all of our customers and future customers, existing customers, and of course partners. So this was a very brief intro. I was a little bit limited on time here, Eric. But let's have one question from the Q&A. Maybe if you see something that
we'll try to get a quick one here. But like you said, we have everybody answering questions in the chat here. So if I was to pick a good one here, how can I integrate Creatio with software and tools that I'm already using?
Perfect question. So our standard approach towards any integration is really, first of all, looking at our marketplace, right? See if we already have an integration, a connector, marketplace app for that, which is a plug and play style of integration, right? You just install the package and you're ready to go. Just fill in the criteria for the configuration and that's it. Next step would be looking into the low-code approach in building that integration, right? Whether you can automate data exchange with business processes, whether those are going to be, scheduled business processes looking for data update or data exchange, whether those are going to be trigger-based, right? So more of a transactional exchange of data. And if that approach is not going to be working, we'll of course looking into building custom integrations, right? Even though we are a low-code and no-code application, we still provide capability of running professional developments on top of the platform, right? Utilizing any variety of integration methods out there. Usually those, of course, are REST services or data protocols, which we believe would be still possible of building through a low-code environment, right? But in any case, more sophisticated and I would say rarely used approaches and integrations like through intermediate transaction tables would be possible, right? Even though those would be less preferred.
Excellent. What a way to answer that question, and what a way to end the session, Alex. Always, you're a wealth of knowledge when it comes to the Creatio product. And please, audience, let's continue those questions in the chat, and our team will do our best to answer them. Alex, thank you very, very much for the presentation. And that brings us to our next individual. You want to say hi to Mike while you're here, Alex?
Yeah, Mike, well, I'm glad you're here. I know you have a very exciting session of building an app in a very short time. And I'm pretty sure that you're going to be quite successful with this one. So have fun, guys, and I'll talk to you later.
All right. Thanks, Alex.
Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Hey, Mike, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. Doing great.
Excellent. Yeah. So if you would want to take over the control for me here, I'll let you drive through your own slides. Alex and I were challenged a little bit during the last session. Yeah, so great to have you here. So just for the audience's benefit, Mike is our technology evangelist here at Creatio. And again, very adept at building applications, workflows, and automating them very quickly. Should be a great session with Mike. I'll turn it over to you, sir, and we'll look forward to your presentation.
Yeah, thank you, Eric. And let me start. So today I want to showcase how anyone using Creatio platform can create a workflow automation app in a matter of 1 hour. So I'll show how to automate request management workflow and in particular administrative service requests. So just for you to know, since we needed to squeeze up 1 hour or so of customization in 20 minutes, the session was demo was customizations were pre-recorded. And also I want to know that if you have any questions, so please leave them in the chat window and we will do our best to answer them during this session. So, all right. So in order to create the request management app, there are just a number of steps that should be taken. For instance, like we need to create and set up object model and user interfaces. We need to enable approvals and create like a dynamic case management to structure all this process. We also will have a look at how to secure our application and call some external REST APIs to complete this application. So without further ado, let's dive in. And I want to start with the core request model. So to start with, we have decided to use like a marketplace application, which is vacation leave request, to leverage some of the core object model available from that app and some user interfaces. So as some of you know, Creatio comes with a package architecture, which gives so-called like a modular approach and makes it very easy to combine multiple marketplace applications, out-of-the-box features, and all customizations in a single app. So as soon as I've installed this application on the environment, we've got new request section. And in order to start with the customization, all I need to do is to create a new package inside Creatio and then add dependency on the marketplace application to reuse and customize some of the existing things, such as, for instance, a request section and request object model. And this is something that we have started with, right? So to proceed with customizations and with object model, we used a section wizard, which is a tool which allows to create new sections and also customize all existing ones. And for instance, this is the place where we've enabled approvals. This is the place where we are building mini pages. So this is a mini page designer, which allows in a drag and drop manner really quickly to create an user interface to so-called mini page. So then it can be used later on when we are adding new requests or when we modify an existing requests. All right, and so the section, once we're done in the section wizards, we can go and also do a list setup view, change list setup, and only display the columns that we need. But essentially, we are want to build an administrative service request, right? So this means that we need to add new request type, which is essentially administrative service request, and then create new edit page for that. So this is what we are actually doing right now. By, again, in a section wizard, in a drag and drop manner, we can add all the user interface and build all the user interface at columns like requester, who requested, requester type, and description. And while we are doing this, this is actually the combination of the user interface. By behind the curtains, the object model and like database structure, all the columns, everything is handled by Creatio platform for us. And this is just invisible for user, but everything is done seamlessly for us. And section wizard is actually a place where a user not only can set up a user interface of our pages, but also apply some business rules, right, and create a business processes. So, for instance, now we are adding new columns to this page, like max payment date. And if you need to localize this column for different cultures, this can be easily done via our section wizard localization interface. Next piece is that our administrative service requests need to keep track, we need to keep track of all expenses which were done during this request. And this can be achieved very easily just by adding a new detail directly from the section wizard in the same page without any, switching to any other places of the interface. Once we will hit save, all these changes will be automatically applied to the user interface, and new detail and a new layout will be applied. So when we create a new administrative service request, as you can see, there is expenses detail already placed into the system. But what we need to do is to additionally to add some additional fields into this detail. For instance, since we are tracking expenses, we want to add like amount, which is going to be a decimal column, and also currency. So just to keep track of, okay, like how much was spent and in which currency in particular. And this detail wizard, it's a great powerful tool, and it allows not only to change a page layout, but also specify whether a column should be read-only or whether it's required or not. And then you can apply on top of that a business rule to auto-populate fields or to hide particular fields on some conditions, or to auto-populate fields from based on some values. And also, as you can see, while I'm doing the customization and when I hit save, system automatically checks and do all the validations, because maybe I've need to do to add some particular things that are required, because otherwise the record will not be saved. And there are two different ways how we can add records onto details, whether using editable grid or through the page. So if we want to enable and add new records through the page, that's very easy. And this approach is actually sometimes it's more better, because when we have, let's say, a multi-line text, like in this particular scenario. Okay. So let's carry on, and the next step would be to manage approvals. So we already have enabled approvals for this request section, but we still need to have some visual structure over this process. For this, we can use our dynamic case management tool, which is a great tool to be used when we and when there are different ways to achieve the goal. So in this scenario, for our request management app, we will define a few stages like draft, in progress, approval, completed, and cancel. And there might be some tasks to be completed on each and every step of this case. But in this scenario, for now, we only need to automatically send approval to a particular role to the administrative service request manager, let's say, so then when the user will approve, manager will approve this particular request or reject this particular request, the corresponding record or the corresponding request will be populated. So let's see how this works in detail. So I've created a new request for to reimburse some expenses, and once I've sent our request to approval, the approval record is automatically generated on this detail. But we still can improve this dynamic case by adding the automatic transition to another stage. So for instance, when the approval is successfully approved, we're going to move our case to the completed stage, and when it's rejected, we are going to move it to the cancel state. So let's see how this works when it's done. All right. So let's proceed. And next thing is so we've added our request management app, but we still are lacking our analytics. So starting from Creatio 7.18, we can easily use our great no-code wizard to create our homepage designer. So home pages actually, and for instance, to define various dashboards like pie chart to keep track of a number of requests by different types, or a chart of to display information on number of requests in particular stages. Or we also can create a new indicator which will show the number of requests which are pending processing. So then our users will see like the helicopter view over, okay, how our request management process is working as a whole. And so once we hit save in this no-code designer, we're gonna see the result. And this homepage will be applied to the our existing request workplace. All right. And another step that we can apply to make our application even more powerful is to actually create a machine learning model. And to do so, what we need to do first is create a machine learning model to predict our approver column. And so what we need to do is create a model, specify some inputs. So in this scenario, it is the amount of all expenses and type, which will be considered as an input for our predictions. And once this model is created, we need to proceed with and train this model. And then we can use it in a business process. So we can create a business process. And in this situation, for instance, we can create a business process which will run every time when new approval is created. Then we'll use a machine learning process element to trigger the logic and then to save and predict approver for this particular business process. So the machine learning model is added. We have need also to specify the what gonna be like the initial trigger signal, and also we want to run this logic only in scenarios when the approver is not defined by default. Okay, so also of course in a business app we always need to make it secure, and of course we don't want anyone to approve this request. That's why we need to create a functional role, or like add some users to this functional role. So then when new case or new request is created, all users inside that functional role of administrative service request managers will be automatically notified that there is new request pending approval. And to do so, all we need to do is actually to modify our dynamic case and then specify that, all right, so for this particular dynamic case, the approver would be the administrative service request manager group. And also, the other way to secure our application, of course, is to use operations permissions, record permissions, and column permissions. In some particular case, this is also viable. So for our request, we do not want anyone to remove existing requests in the system. And also, we want to request records only be seen by the one who created the request and also by the administrative service request manager. So no other user in the system will have a right to either read or edit or delete a record inside the system. So when it's done, the access rights will be not only applied for new records, but also like redistributed for the existing records. And this is what we see on the screen, the result of this setup. Okay, let's proceed. And the next step is to make this request section available on the mobile. And to do so, we're going to use mobile application wizard. So, and we need to do just a couple of things here. First, we're going to add new, so we add existing mobile request section into mobile app, and then specify the list of columns that should be shown in the mobile applications. And when it's done, we also want to show the expenses detail, and this is something that we are can do again through the mobile wizard. And once this is updated, all the request section is going to be available on the mobile app. Next, we want to build the integration with a third-party app to get the currency rate for each expense that are submitted to the request. So to do so, we can use our great no-code wizard to reach REST APIs. And all we need to do is just through the no-code wizard to specify input parameters and output parameters. And then this service integration method can be used in a business process. So in this scenario, what we want to do is to trigger a business process every time when a new expense is added, and to save this data to the our record to our expense record. And to do so, we were going to do a few things. So first, we are going to read our expense record. We're going to read our currency. We're going to read the currency code, and then we're going to pass this data to our web service request. And when we get a response, we can work with that data and, for instance, use a modified data element to update the record, or to save, or to do some particular calculations. And next, and last but not the least thing that we are doing here is to add in the Kanban view, which is will give a little bit more visibility over the whole process. So again, what we need to do, we're going to Marketplace. We are going to install this application on our environment. And once this is completed, every section in the system which has dynamic cases available, it will have the additional Kanban view, which will allow users and a team of managers to work on on a Kanban view rather than on regular section. So once this application was installed, here is the Kanban view, and if we select that for administration service request, we can, in a drag and drop manner, change the statuses and move and work with different approvals and requests. And yeah, so just to summarize, just in a matter of 1 hour, this is how anyone using Creatio platform can create a business app and in a matter of 1 hour.
Excellent.
Back to you, Eric.
Yeah, that was amazing to see. A lot of different components, a lot of different applications to kind of put together. One thing that you had showed was the ability to leverage our marketplace, and we have a question in the chat, Mike, that I thought was very interesting, because I think it's important when we talk about composability. The question is this: is it possible to combine multiple marketplace solutions and reuse and customize them into a customizable app?
Yeah, great question. Definitely, it is possible, because in Creatio we have so-called like a package hierarchy, and when building a package hierarchy, a user can define multiple levels in package inheritance, and there might be different packages. So one package can be dependent on many different packages. So definitely, this is possible, and this actually is pretty easy, and it's a great approach to use.
Excellent. Perfect. Well, I know that we have a lot of questions in the chat, but we're doing our best to keep up with them. Mike, thank you very much for joining us today. Very good demonstration on the ease of low-code and application development. So thanks again, and we'll talk to you soon. I can see you're probably just a room down from me. Have a good one, Mike.
Yeah, a good one. Bye.
Thanks. All right. We are now moving into our next session. I see my esteemed colleagues joining as we speak here, so just in time. How is everyone?
We're here. We were teleported here.
Teleported.
Yeah.
Hello.
Excellent, excellent. Well, we'll give a quick introduction, then we'll go ahead and get started with our discussion. Perfect. So I'd like to welcome everyone, and we're going to be talking about driving the future of work with low-code and citizen developers. So we've been joined by an esteemed group of colleagues. We have Alan Joen, account director from Collier Pickard. Welcome, Alan.
Hi.
All right. We're also joined by Artie Devi, Global Head of Customer Experience Management, Enterprise Application Services. That's a long title, Artie. Artie is joining us from Tata Consultancy Services. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All
Thanks
right.
for having me.
Excellent. And last but certainly not least, Mr. Jim Love, CIO and Chief Content Officer, ITWC. Jim, welcome. You look very professional. You with the microphone and everything. I feel I don't have the right equipment now.
I assure you there are jeans on underneath this desk.
Wonderful,
I turned up in a t-shirt yesterday, and I don't normally do that, but I was running to a meeting, and I got in there and went, oh, and somebody said, well, it's a casual meeting. Don't worry about it. You know.
Perfect. Excellent. So we've got a great audience, very active in the chat. So I'm sure we'll have lots of questions and lots of feedback. And I'm excited to be joined by you guys. It's always a pleasure to have such an open discussion. And as we look at you know, to the future of low code and citizen developers, you know, we understand that you know, there's benefits, there's challenges, and you know, when we're looking to explore how that's going to be, I'd like to start with you know, Artie. Artie, I've got a question for you, and hopefully you're ready to go right off the bat here. So to start our conversation, you know, why is the demand for citizen developers tools growing so fast, and you know, how do you see this? How do you see this moving forward?
Absolutely. Thank you, Eric, for the question. So before I go into the drivers of the entire citizen development and low-code, no-code, let me share some statistics with you. As per Gartner, the entire low-code, no-code technologies is going to be $30 billion market by 2025. And one more data point, 70% of all application development is going to be in low-code, no-code technologies. So it is writing on the wall. It is a no-brainer that customers are embracing low-code, no-code technologies and, you know, building out business applications much faster and more efficiently. Now coming to the drivers of you know, low-code, no-code, and the sudden surge in demand for the citizen development tools. The first and foremost, I would say, is the digital transformations, the number of programs that customers are initiating across industries, across geographies. So this stresses out the IT teams a lot, because, you know, the numbers are so high that there is not enough bandwidth within the IT teams to develop these applications so fast and so efficiently. And to add to that, there is a shortage of IT resources in the market. What I mean by IT resources is really the IT professionals who are like developers, the hardcore coders in the market. There is a scarcity of these resources. So with this, IT would really welcome the change that, you know, embracing the new stakeholders from business into their families. So digital transformation is one of the key business drivers to see the increase in the number of developer tools today. Number two, hyper automation. So we're taking automation to the next level. There's always been some automation, in certain applications, and they were able to do it to, cut down on manual work. But as we see today, customers want to automate anything and everything that they could potentially. In fact, rightly so, right? Why should there be any manual task when they can allocate the same time in some other activities like strategy or visioning or innovation and so on and so forth. So with hyper automation, just to give you more example that we had for one of our customers, we helped the citizen development teams there in their implementation of contact center. It's in the CRM world. So right from when the consumer puts in the service request through any channel, whether it be a WhatsApp channel or SMS or a virtual assistant, to the time that it gets resolved, everything is automated. It's like end-to-end automation. And we're not just talking about simple things like what is the status of my complaint or things like that, but actually, what is my loan amount after I deduct my taxes and so on and so forth. Very complex calculations. You could actually do that automation end-to-end without an intervention of IT or even the agent. We call this unassisted care. And for that to happen, you need to have technologies which will let you do that, right? You need to have workflow technologies. You need to have artificial intelligence. You need to have machine learning. And not only these, but you should be able to design the application easily. For that, you need capability of say a visual designer, graphical user interface. You need DevOps, you need cloud. And plus, you need a solid foundation of the tool, of having scalability, having performance, resilience, flexibility in churning out these business capabilities to business, right? So all these ingredients are required in the low-code, no-code technologies, and hence you see, just the demand right there going up. And lastly, I would like to mention, we wouldn't be completing this webinar without the mention of COVID impact. So it just added fuel to the fire, right? I mean, no brainer that remote working and the changing dynamics in the market, customers had to respond to the new market conditions. They had to churn newer business capability, new applications on the fly. So I would say low-code, no-code has actually really validated, and COVID has validated the value proposition of this entire industry on citizen development. So I would leave those last comments on the surge of demand and low-code, no-code in the market today. Eric.
Yeah, that's a tremendous take on that. And I'm actually glad that you kind of brought that up at the end, right? With COVID and how that's really changed the way a lot of people think about technology, right? Thinking about how quickly they have to pivot and how quickly they have to adapt to changing models. Those digital transformation cycles that were 3 to 5 year roadmaps have turned into we got to do this today. Otherwise, we could be in serious trouble as an organization. Jim, what's your take on that? On what's driving that demand?
Backlog. I mean,
yeah.
we've consistently had a backlog of applications and needed applications. We are prisoners of legacy applications, and financially, and more importantly in terms of customer experience. And I'll say more. I'll leave that more importantly in terms of customer experience, because financially we were nearly consumed by our legacy applications, and a lot of people fought very hard and long fights to try and reduce that. There was a time when I started out where 90% of your expense was keeping the lights on, maintaining those big applications, and they weren't responsive. And that's even more important now, because in a world where you got 3 seconds to make a connection with a customer, they'll click somewhere else. We've been talking about that world forever, and COVID put us in a time machine. We went 5 years into the future. And so now people are starting to really talk about not just the legacy, the prisoner of legacy and the technical debt that creates, but also the idea of how do we be responsive to customers? How do we be innovative? How do we give that incredible customer experience? And I tell my team right now, if you're not interested in an incredible customer experience, get out of my shop. Why? I can't carry you. Those days are done. Those days of being able to carry somebody who can sort of plod along and we'll get it to you when you get it to you, those are done. The customer will go. And so this is a necessity for all of us, a competitive necessity. And as CIOs, we've all fought our way. We all had that thing about fighting our way to the business table. We got to the business table and we found out the business table is about business and it's about customers. And everybody's got a heartache story about mine's technology. I got to take care of that. Yours is you've got operations, but we all got to come together and deliver an incredible customer experience. That's the promise of low code, no code. That's what it enables. And that's going to speak to everybody from the CIO to the CEO throughout the organization. I'm very bullish on where this can go because it frees us from that technical legacy. And that's when, at a time when we need it more, we need it bad, as they say in the commercial.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. That is, there could be a last competitive differentiator, right? You have to be providing that service, customer experience, because with the amount of competition coming from everywhere, you know what I mean? There's no shortage of competitors. You can only sell on price for so long. You can only sell on product differentiation for so long before your competitors catch up. That last differentiator really is that customer experience, and being able to stay ahead of your competitors on that is crucial to any business in any industry.
Yeah,
Alan, I know. With your 40 years of experience in CRM, you've got to have a comment here.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think both Artie and Jim have been very articulate on the point, and the two things are the lack of experience that's out there, the skills that you need to sustain a big IT centralized infrastructure. They're just not there. You can't find the people. And therefore, you can't be responsive. In Jim's point, you can't be responsive in the way you need to be in today's customer-driven world. So the skill shortage is the problem that low-code will solve. One of the guys I'm connected with in CRM here in the UK, he was on the development side of old-fashioned CRM. So he was skilled in JavaScript and C+ and HTML5, and very used to getting inside systems, listening to the customer requirement, and making bespoke versions of CRM packages. And he was recruited by the police force here in the UK, who have masses of legacy systems and no real way of adapting low code within their world. The police force in the UK is completely strapped for resources. They're undermanned. They have job vacancies that they can't fill, and so they're prepared to take on a guy with no experience of data analysis, no data science skills, but a skill set that says he can develop, and they're going to put him through Python training and make him proficient in AI and machine learning, and then let him loose on their legacy data in order to try to give them insights at all the crime statistics and the information that's locked away in these legacy systems. Now, for me, that's a kind of desperate measure. If that organization had taken a different view and instead of saying, how can we fix the skill shortage problem, and our solution is we'll just try and create our own new skills pool. If they'd looked at the problem with a completely different point of view and said, this problem isn't going to go away, what can we do to not just put a band-aid on the problem, but what can we do to make it right for the future? Then they might well have turned around and said, what we actually need is to democratize the way that this analysis is being done and adopt a low-code, a no-code approach, so that the very detectives who need this analysis in order to look for trends and look for patterns and act accordingly, they'll be able to work that out for themselves, maybe with the help and guidance or the governance from their IT centrally, but basically providing the resource that's more sustainable for the future, rather than having to continually train programmers. Mm-hmm. So with I know the police is not really a commercial environment, but that if you take a look at an organization on the commercial side that got locked up in the same problem, I read recently that during the pandemic, Amtrak in the US were unable to provide the IT resource they needed to react to some of the things they needed to react to because of the pandemic. And because of their low-code policy, they managed to create a contact tracing system for Amtrak travelers through low-code, through the business operations people being able to develop that. The low-code platform that they chose made the application responsive, so it doesn't matter whether the traveler is using an Apple or an Android phone or picking up information through a browser. The resultant tracing system that they built was fully adaptive to all those environments, and I think the power of low code in today's environment is demonstrated well by the Amtrak example in the US, and the problem which will be perpetual with legacy systems is demonstrated by the recruitment policy of the police here in the UK.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's actually a great point. And I saw an interesting question in the chat from the audience about that. But so just keep that thought in mind for a second, because I also want to take a quick poll of the audience, while we're going through this discussion. The question is, how many business applications are developed outside of your IT departments? We get a couple of choices here for the audience folks: less than 50, more than 50, or we do everything internally in the IT department. So interesting to see what the results of that were. But to come back to your point, Alan, the question that I saw in the chat is a good one, right? Because when we think about low code and we think about citizen development, the question that we normally get from a lot of our customers, and I'm sure that you guys are seeing it as well, is what applications can we actually develop with low code? And that's a great example of the police department, Amtrak. We've seen multiple customers creating different types of applications utilizing low code. So to kind of just touch on that, Artie, what are some of the key applications that you're seeing being developed on low code at this point?
Absolutely, Eric. So you may categorize the kinds of application broadly into three. One is the nature of record keeping. Things like inventory management or customer data and demographics, or any of those record keeping in nature. Those are definitely sure shot case for a low-code, no-code application. The second category is that of shared services, as in scheduling, logistics, and if you just take it a little more in a business function, say for example CRM, things like campaign management or lead management. And for one of our customers, we actually implemented low-code, no-code for their lead management, for field service management, as well as marketing, right? Campaign, the entire suite of marketing activities around events and so on and so forth. So that is the category that of the shared services. And then you have another set of use cases that you can deploy for extending the core applications. Say, for example, for one of the customers, they had their ERP in one of those SAP applications, but there was an extension required on the SAP module, which they did not do it in SAP, but they thought doing it in low-code, no-code was in the faster and much more efficient way. So they actually did the extension on the integrations with payment gateway and the entire payment module was actually built in low-code, no-code. And TCS has helped a lot of the citizen developers in multiple use cases. We've done one more where it was an insurance firm, and we actually enabled their contact center for any types of claims management, policies management, and so on and so forth. So the entire use case on customer-facing applications, we see a lot from what we've spoken to our customers about.
Mm-hmm. That's great. And so before I jump to you, Jim, I just wanted to share the results of this poll, and I'm going to kind of tie this into my question to you. So how many business applications are developed, either within or outside of the IT department? And less than 50% came in at 38.5% of the audience. More than 50% came in at 42.3%. And they do everything internally at 19.2%. So interesting, split that we see there. And I guess, when we look at what types of applications can be developed with low code, how much of that do you see falling outside of the IT department? We had a great presentation from John Bratensevic from Forrester earlier. And he gave the example of, applications that are being developed with low code. You want that citizen development, but do you want those applications, say for like in healthcare, to prescribe, medicine? We probably don't want to do that in citizen development. So, what do you see in terms of what types of applications can be built inside as well as outside IT groups?
I'm not sure that we're talking about developing applications anymore in the same way that we talked about where you start and you build from everything. More we're talking about integration. And I think that's a piece, and extension. And let me just back up on that. First of all, if anybody in my shop came to me and said there was an application out there I could buy for a SaaS application, I want to build it, I'd first ask them, are you crazy? And second, give me a really good business case for why we should be building an application somebody already built. Whether it's open source, whether it's out there, whether it's licensed, it doesn't matter. Let's not spend our time building stuff that's already built in there. But when you break that down and you start to think of applications not as a monolith, but as a connection of services, which is more and more how we want to see our world. Not whether we get to a full microservices architecture or not, but a connection of services, then you start to look at the problem differently. And it's how do I connect these things? Because we are in danger. The biggest danger we have of the user generated application or the shadow IT is not that they'll bring in an application. It's they'll bring in an application that doesn't connect to our other things. And before you know it, you got 3 databases, and we're right back where we started, to islands of data. Now, I think one of the biggest promises of low code, no code is being able to bridge those gaps in the early stages, being able to bring those things together. But eventually, we're going to stop talking about application. We're going to talk about, I need this service. And I won't monopolize, but in Microsoft, when they started the Microsoft development, everybody remember Windows and how clunky it was and how big it was. One reason it was so big and clunky was if you wrote the cut and paste routine for Windows, to get that tested through the stack and back was a 12-week enterprise. 12 weeks to find out whether your little piece of that enterprise code worked. Can't work like that anymore. So we need to encapsulate, we need to talk about services, we need to talk about integrating services and extending to the customer. And so I think we'll see this world differently, and low code, no code. So just the last thing, medical device. I'll pull the code from the medical device. I'll write the wrapper around it. I'll have a good steel, ironclad medical device that will do what it does all the time, that somebody will maintain, and they're great at that. But I will write the user interface. I will write the data extract. I will write the reporting. That's the promise. I'm jazzed about this. After 40 years, I'm ready to get out there again.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, then that's a great point. I think again, bringing all of that together in a seamless, seamless interface is the benefit of low-code, even above and beyond, developing applications. It's really about tying all of those together in a consistent, consumable manner for the customers. So I'll switch gears here a little bit from the technology aspect of it and think about it from kind of a job perspective, right? So if we look at low code, there's always that fear, right? Is low code going to take jobs away from traditional developments, or developers? But that we know that that's not the case. There's always going to be a need for traditional development well into the future. But where do you think are low code solutions that are creating jobs for people out there? Like, how are we creating jobs with citizen development and low code? Artie, I'll let you take a stab at that one, because it looks like we might have lost Alan for a minute. He seems to have dropped off. Maybe bad connectivity in the UK today, anyway.
Sure, absolutely. So, and just given where we are, with the scarcity of resources all over, IT professionals are much more scarce than ever before. There's no reason for the either of those teams, either from business or IT, to feel insecure about their roles, because there's a huge market. As I stated, there's a $30 billion market for us to capture, and everybody is going to have a role in it. And really, we're talking about how do we come together. So if you look at the definition of the citizen developers themselves, right, it's really a mix of IT and business. It is the intersection of both these communities that help each other in building the business applications. While businesses are very clear on their requirements, they know exactly what to do, and if we're able to empower them into using the right technologies, they're able to code what they know already. So that's a perfect window. But nevertheless, it's not as easy as it sounds. So I think both IT and business have to work together, seamlessly in a way that they empower each other, right? So if you look at some of the steps and how the empowerment can happen, is number one is the selection of the tool. That is the first and foremost step that you would want to aid the business, the leadership, that selection of the tool in a structured manner. There are about 600 tools in the market today on low code, no code. Imagine you're selecting your, the very top 2 or top 3 relevant to your requirements. So, so you would want to list down your evaluation criteria. What are those parameters? It could be business, technical, functional, anything that is relevant for you and for your requirements. Give the right weightages, come out with a score, objectively, and then decide which is the right one for you. And there could be some subjectivity around it, which is fine, but that you have a scientific basis of arriving at a tool. And having selected the tool, you train the teams. The business has to be trained in a way that you increasing the adoption of the tool, right? At the end of it, every person has a role in the organization. And as I said earlier, there's no way one could be feeling insecure about it. So you train the teams, and you make it more formal, give them a certificate. There could be levels of certifications, and you can have many approaches. You could train them in mass of one whole community, or you can use the approach of train the trainer. So you identify your super users, your power users, let them be your champions, train them, make them efficient, put in, lab exercises, hands-on, let them get their hands dirty on the application. And then you send those champions out in the larger community for them to, train and make the teams more efficient. There's a slight bit of demarcation of activities, at least in the initial phases of of training and of project execution, of what is ideally done by business and what is ideally done by IT. Say, for example, a user interface, a user experience is best done by business. They already know the use case, they know the flow of information, they know the data elements, whether it is a decision tree there or it's an underlying workflow approval required. What are the prerequisites for this task given the subsequent task has to be accomplished? So all of those, the user experience, the workflow capability, and if I relate to my role in the CRM world, things like promotion management, campaign management, or pricing administration, or product family configuration. So all those are best done by business. And on the other side, on the IT, you're really talking about setting up the data model, the integrations, the interfaces, the security, and right about the entire governance on data itself, right? The how clean is the data, how pure is the data, and for all this, I believe it's not watertight compartments. You can still be fluid at a later point in time, and you could have a governance institutionalized through a center of excellence, which will state the standards, the policies, the reusability, the checklist, templates, and so on and so forth, just to propagate the roadmap on low code, no code in a very seamless fashion in an organization.
Mhm. Great, great. Yeah, all great points already. Of how we're trying to develop this ecosystem are surrounding low code development. So I think those are great points, and how we could create additional functionalities for developers throughout an organization. I'm gonna take a quick poll, and Jim, I'm gonna pose a question to you. But let me ask the audience really quick. How willing would you be to build an app on a low-code platform, considering yourself as a citizen developer? So how many of you would be willing to build an application utilizing low-code technology? Are you ready to give it a try? You're not quite ready yet, or you're kind of on the fence and you're considering it. So let us know your feedback on that. So that's a good lead into a question for you, Jim. So as people are learning and they're starting to adapt low code technologies, what do you think is needed to empower those citizen developers? Outside of the training, what do we need to do to empower them with the skills necessary to utilize those tools?
I picked up something interesting from the Forrester presentation, and that was where you brought in a mentor and somebody who'd mentor a group of people. And I know this because I'm doing my own sort of toe in the water stuff on low code, no code right now. And I took a developer and I took a person with no development skills, and I gave them both a project using low code, no code, just to see how they would develop it. And I realized that you needed some foundational thoughts about how you start to think about development. And so that part of the coaching has to be there. You don't need the technical skills. Syntax is, like the best programmers are not the ones who learn the syntax. As a matter of fact, the person who's most up on the latest thing and they're going to cram everything into one bite and they're going to do all that sort of stuff, generally you're crappiest programmer in terms of but in terms of what the user's experience and satisfaction is. They're great to have for optimizing, don't get me wrong, but so what you need is that mentorship to bring people along and to lift that sort of mystique of and take the mystique away and say, here, this is a database. This is why we think in these terms. This is why we think in these terms. That's why we call this. And people say, oh, and it's no longer a mystery. And then the people who will excel at this are the people who solve problems, who are your best programmers and your best users. And if you can put them together, you can do this agile thing. Remember agile? We could actually really do it. when we do that. And then who's the coder? Who cares?
Mhm.
You know, when you can play who's the coder, who cares? Now you've got something going for you. And so I think the mentorship, remove the mystery, take away the stuff. We had a term for everything in IT. I mean, sometimes we got 2, sometimes we got 8. You know, and that's how we keep that mystery alive. Get rid of the terminology. Get a mentor, get an interpreter, and let that person help bring out the best in everybody. Because no coder wants to do. Everybody thinks like the question about are you coding and be taken away from us? Do you really want to sit there for 4 hours or 8 hours trying to find that bug in your code? Nobody likes that stuff. We like to create. We're guys who stayed up or women who stayed up all night so we can say, hello world appear on our screen. It's the thrill of creation. It's debugging is not that's a job I think we'll all gladly give up. You know?
I love it. I love it. So I got the results of the poll here, and the good news is there's going to be no shortage of citizen developers, right? So 75% they're ready to give it a try. Only 12.5% said they're not ready yet, and it was tied for I'm still considering. So good news is it looks like you know, our audience is ready to embrace the low-code technology. And I see that we've got Alan back. Alan.
Hey, Alan's back.
All right.
My apologies. Whilst living in a rural location is great for my well-being, it's not very good for my broadband connection, and I lost it. So I'm back in on cell phone. I hope you can hear me okay.
We can hear you perfect. You sound great, and we understand those challenges. I have those quite frequently as well. So. You know, I know we're getting close here. So, Alan, I want to make sure now that you're back, we can bring you into the conversation here a bit. You know, we were really you know, talking about you know, taking this citizen developer approach, how that's going to be you know, beneficial to organizations. You know, how many you know, we polled the audience, how many are willing to give low-code a try. I'm gonna flip the script on that a little bit. I'll put it on you and say, you know, what are some of the you know, what are some of the flaws with that approach, do you think? You know, taking that supplemental citizen developer approach, do you see any flaws with that? What do you see as being a challenge?
Okay, well, I mean, one of the challenges is that if you take people out of business operations environment and ask them to become low-code champions and to help progress the organization with its transformation and its business and its business future, you potentially diminish their ability to do their regular day job. So if you've got key people who are important to the infrastructure, the way it runs at the minute, important for the level of account management or customer contact that they're directly involved with, and you take them out of that world and ask them to become low-code champions, then potentially the organization says, well, we can't afford that because we're understaffed in that function already, and to impose this extra workload in an attempt to create citizen developers, whilst it might be a great thing in the long run, in the short term, we physically can't provide the human resources that we need to get there. So that stepping stone is potentially a flaw in the argument, and one that organizations need to think about very carefully. Because you know, ultimately the benefit of adopting low code is clear, and that's what we've been talking about today, and that's what this whole low-code marathon is about. But if the barrier to entry is we're actually too busy to allocate those champions, then that potentially will slow down the introduction of low-code technologies within some organizations. Mm-hmm. But that doesn't mean it's not there. I mean, there are organizations like mine, Collier Pickard, like Artis in TCS, who have skills to come in and help jump that barrier, you know, so outsource some of the low-code world, and rather than having to learn it from scratch and do it all yourself, get somebody who can mentor you through it and do those first exercises, build those first business applications for you, whilst you watch what's going on and acquire the knowledge in a kind of osmosis way, rather than having to just pull resources out of your organization, your operational organization, and start from scratch. I'd like to make one extra comment, Eric, and it was at the point where I lost my broadband connection. Jim was talking about the strength of low-code in integrations rather than building completely from scratch. And I have a customer here in the UK that is a distribution company, and they are using Creatio in the ways that you would expect. They're putting the marketing tools in, they're putting the sales tools in, they're putting the service tools in for case management. And they had not thought about the integration aspect other than pulling data from their ERP system in to populate customer records in Creatio. They hadn't thought more broadly than that. And we suggested that they take all the data that they're accumulating on cases in the service side of their CRM operation and look at times to respond, times to resolve, because all these things are actually part of the assessment they have to do every other year with their quality management system. So these guys are ISO 9001 certified, and there's an audit that they have to perform every other year to maintain their certification. And the very fact that the data that they need is locked in their case management, their service application inside CRM. With low-code, it's very easy to just populate that out of CRM in a process, very easily configured, and all of a sudden their quality management audit is self-populated by the system without the manual efforts that's required. So, I think the shortage of resource is the big flaw in some organizations making that leap. But with the aid of organizations like implementation partners of Creatio, for example, there's an opportunity to make the transition much easier than it would be to just take the whole workload on yourself.
Excellent, excellent. Well, folks, I know we are well over time, but this is something that could probably continue. I love these sort of discussions, and hopefully we were able to keep the audience a little over time. They were able to spend some quality time with us here after hours. So I'd like to thank each of you for joining today. Love the insights, love the discussion. Obviously, there's a lot of experience on this team that we see here, and I hope the audience will be able to gather some good insights and take that away with them from today's session. So, Artie, Jim, Alan, thank you again for joining. Love to have this discussion. We'll have to continue it on a longer session.
Thank you very much.
Great meeting you all. Thank you.
All right, folks. Thanks. All right. So just very quickly, everyone, we have a little quiz to take, and we'll be announcing the results tomorrow. Again, you saw at the beginning of the marathon today, we're giving away some prizes. So the question for today is, to what value the low-code market is expected to increase to by 2030? Is it 193 million, 187 billion, 900 million, or 50 billion? So please go ahead and put your answers in the chat. We'll be announcing those winners tomorrow, and we will be able to see you guys from there. So again, thank you very much, and we appreciate your time. Don't forget to download the State of Low-Code, No-Code report. Have a good afternoon, everybody. Thanks.